If you've ever wanted to paint the perfect Christmas wreath for your holiday cards or as a gift, this tutorial is for you. I'll walk you through how I design, draw, and paint a beautiful watercolor wreath step by step, complete with a bright red bow, poinsettia flowers, and lots of festive ornaments tucked into lush winter greens. You don't need to be good at drawing to follow along. I'll show you a simple way to build your wreath from basic shapes, then turn those shapes into a polished, detailed design you can proudly use for your next holiday project. All materials are listed in the video description, but you can easily adapt my colors to whatever you have on your palette. Use your favorite reds, greens, and yellows, and of course a little bit of white gouache for some decorative snow effects. A tiny red kitten is optional, but she did help me quite a bit. As always, feel free to add your own flair, borrow the techniques you enjoy, and make the wreath truly your own. Let's start by lightly sketching our wreath in pencil. I like to begin with two circles, an outer, larger circle and a smaller inner one. You can trace absolutely anything around you have nearby. I'm using a plate, you can use a bowl or a roll of masking tape. Compass would be perfect here, but mine has mysteriously disappeared into my kids' art supplies, so I'm improvising. Next, I'm adding a bow on top using a copyright-free reference photo for guidance. After that, I use more simple circles to mark where my ornaments and flowers will go. And the secret to designing a wreath like this is to first place lots of round shapes and then turn them into different objects. I might try a dry lotus flower and maybe a star ornament. And of course, the three big circles at the bottom will become my poinsettia flowers. I just find the center of each circle and pull out different leaf shapes, almost like little half-moon silhouettes on each side of the main leaf vein. I'm using a very light pencil, so the lines don't show through the watercolor too much, but on the left you can see the outline I'm working towards more clearly, and I saved it on my Patreon channel so you can download and practice there as well. The remaining circles will become two simple round ornaments, maybe a dried lotus pod, those are really fun to paint, and a star ornament on the right. Finally, I lightly mark in the pine needles, and my little secret tip for making them look more realistic is to think of them as branches, not random needles. So draw small clusters that all point in one direction around the wreath, like a real tree would grow. I decided to have mine flow counterclockwise, but you can do it in the opposite direction. And once you're happy with your layout, even if it's a bit different from mine, we're ready to start painting. And I recommend always starting with your lightest colors. I'm going to paint the yellow gold ornaments first, using gold ochre as my base and a little bit of burnt sienna for the shadows. Both pigments are really lovely earth tones, and together they give a really nice fake gold effect. Just remember to leave a few little highlights unpainted so the ornaments look shiny and polished. Next, let's move on to the reds. For the bow and the berries, I'm using one of my favorite reds. It's called Quinacridone Coral from Daniel Smith, and this is my main color. And then I'm adding deeper shadows with permanent alizarin crimson. Keep this first layer very light and watery and try to preserve your white highlights. If you want even more defined fabric folds, you can gently lift a bit of paint with a clean, slightly damp, flat brush. Once everything is completely dry, we'll come back and glaze more red on top to make the colors much bolder. With red watercolors especially, patience really pays off, so building a few light layers will give you a much more three-dimensional, glowing result than trying to do it all in one go. For the poinsettia flowers, you can absolutely stay with your favorite reds, but here I wanted to show you one of my all-time favorite magic color combinations. It's quinacridone, magenta, and phthalo green. You might expect a red-green mix to turn into a brown, but these two pigments actually create the most beautiful violet-blue shadow color. It's hard to describe the exact hue, but it makes a gorgeous, cool shadow for decorative poinsettias. I first saw an oil painter mix magenta and phthalo green and just fell in love with this combination. I've been using it for poinsettias ever since. And for the rest of the ornaments, I'm gonna use phthalo blue, but truly any vibrant, festive color you love will work here. Now it's time for the pine needles, and there's so many greens that work, so I really recommend testing a few strokes on scrap paper first, find which one you love the most, and just get used to the motion of pulling these long, fine needles with your brush. And I like to use more than one green to add texture and visual interest. You can either mix your own green from your favorite yellow and blue, or use a convenience color straight from the tube. So here, let me show you I'm using Green Apatite Genuine from Daniel Smith Primatech range of colors. It's a super granulating pigment, which means the particles of paint are larger and they settle into paper, creating a beautiful natural texture. I'm also using that same phthalo green from the poinsettias for a few cooler accents. And then comes my secret ingredient for rich, dark pine shadows. It's called neutral tint. So instead of reaching for black or dark green, like say Perylene green, or overmixing lots of colors, which can make things muddy, I add neutral tint to my greens to deepen them while still keeping them luminous. It's one of the most underrated watercolor pigments in my opinion, and it works with any color of your choice, greens, reds, and blues. I recently did a full video about neutral tint and how to use it in your work. Feel free to check that out if you're curious. I think it would be a wonderful addition to your palette. Once all the needles are in and your first layer is dry, you'll see the whole wreath beginning to come together. And now we're ready to start adding definition and details in the next step. This is my favorite part, bringing everything to life with gentle glazes of color. Think of this stage as slowly turning up the contrast one area at a time. So let's start with the reds, and I'm using the same two colors as before, Quinacridone Coral and Alizarin Crimson. But this time it's a slightly stronger mix and only in the areas that need a color boost or deeper shadows. So on the bow, we have lots of folds in the fabric, and I'm focusing my glazes on the parts that are turned away from the light. I lay down the darker red, then soften the edges with a clean, damp brush, so the shadow gently disappears into the first layer. You can also leave the edges a bit sharper if you prefer a more illustrative, painterly look. And just a touch of extra depth on each fold is enough to make the bow suddenly feel much more three-dimensional. Once that is done, I repeat the same idea on the berries. Just a few strokes of coral to deepen the lower part of each berry and define the round shape. When you're happy with the reds, let's move on to the dried lotus pod, and here I'm going to use a classic mix, the same phthalo blue from the ornaments and some burnt sienna. So blue and orange, as you probably know, are complementary colors, and together they create a beautiful neutral. If you add a little more burnt sienna, the mix leans closer to brown, which is perfect for this natural earthy object. Each time I paint one of these little seed segments, I drop a tiny bit of clear water in the center. This pushes the pigment outward and naturally creates a darker border, giving you that instant variation in value with very little effort. Next, let's revisit the gold elements. I'm going to go back with burnt sienna and just deepen the shadows and make the golden areas feel richer and more dimensional. Again, you can gently blend the edges with a damp brush to keep everything soft and natural looking. Once that's in place, we'll add more interest to the blue ornaments. Instead of sticking to just one flat blue, I like to have a bit of fun here. I start by applying phthalo blue around the highlight, then soften it with a clean damp brush. While the surface is still wet, I drop in a touch of purple and even a little bit of magenta. Because ornaments are so shiny, they catch lots of reflected color from their surroundings, so it makes sense that our blue bubbles would pick up hints of the red bow and also the poinsettias. Magenta and purple, of course, sit very close to blue on the color wheel, so they blend beautifully and help the ornament look more reflective and interesting, all without needing a reference photo. From there, let's return to the poinsettias, and to push the depth a little further, I'm just going to add a light glaze of magenta over the petals in those background poinsettias, both on the right and on the left. This way, the central flower will stay a bit lighter and feel more in focus, while the background blooms naturally sink into the shadow. I'm skipping through some of the more tedious parts of the process, including the drying time and a few repetitive sections, just to keep things moving. But as always, if you like to follow along in real time, the full version of this tutorial is posted on my Patreon channel. It's about 3.5 hours long with step-by-step photos and detailed narration in real time, so you can paint with me at a slower pace. And finally, we'll deepen the pine needles. I will mix up that same phthalo green with some very dark neutral tint and add a few strokes around and behind the ornaments and flowers. The goal here is to create subtle shadows that help each element stand out from the greenery. If you don't have neutral tint, you can just use dark blue like indigo or indanthrone, or even try Payne's gray mixed with your green. Of course, you can also use neutral tint with the red, so if you want to deepen the shadow on the red bow, you can go ahead and add more contrast overall. Once you've added those last shadows and everything feels nicely defined, the watercolor portion is essentially complete. If you like to see my favorite finishing touches with some mixed media like bright highlights and snowy details, stay with me for the next step and we'll add all that sparkle on top. So I'm gonna start by mixing in a bit of white gouache, just a touch of green, add a little bit of water to make it more fluid, and use this mix to paint lighter pine needles just here and there. With traditional watercolor, we can't paint light over dark very easily, but gouache is opaque, so this is how we sneak in those lighter details on top of our deeper greens. It will add a lot of texture and sparkle to the wreath. Next, I will switch to pure white gouache for the snow. And you want your gouache here to be nice and creamy, so just add a few drops of water, don't make it too fluid, and aim for like a sour cream consistency. Then I'm going to use the back of my brush to gently dab snowy highlights on the bow, ornaments, and the foliage. If you don't have white gouache, white ink or acrylic markers work beautifully too. So like a white gel pen, this is a jelly roll from Sakura, is perfect for adding tiny dots, little snowflakes, and fine white lines on top of your colors. It's a very simple way to add decorative details. You can also add a warm message if you're painting a card or your own signature, anything to bring extra magic to your finished painting. And that's it, your festive wreath is complete. And if you like to continue with more cozy seasonal projects, I'd love for you to check out my Christmas tree tutorial next. Wishing you a very happy holiday season, and I'll see you soon with more watercolor magic.